There was a day in my life when I believed the world would be better without me. I was exhausted, broken, convinced I had no value. But that was also the day I found my reason to stay. This is the story of that day. For a long time, my life at home felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. No matter how much I begged my mother to stop hurting me, nothing changed. It was like the woman I remembered from my early childhood. The one who loved me was buried deep under grief, alcohol, and a rage I couldn't understand. At night, after the beatings, I would lie trembling in bed, my small body aching. And I would try to tell myself that this was not really my mother. This angry, violent person couldn't be her. But of course, she was. And that truth, that realization, made it hurt even more than the physical blows. I was just a child, and all I could do was ask myself what I had done wrong. Why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I smart enough or strong enough to make her love me again? Why did love feel so far away, like something I could see but never touch? Over time, those questions became heavier than I knew how to carry. They settled in my heart like stones, weighing me down until I could barely breathe. I felt trapped, not just in that house, inside my own head, with these relentless, unanswered questions echoing over and over. The physical pain was hard, of course it was. Bruises fade, cuts heal, but the words she hurled at me were different. They cut deeper. She called me ugly, worthless, invisible. She would say I was nothing, that I would never amount to anything. And when someone hears that long enough, especially as a child, from the person who is supposed to love you most in the world, you begin to believe it. Her words became my inner voice. I started to see myself through her eyes, a useless, unlovable burden. I had spent my whole young life working, sacrificing, helping, and enduring so much. I tried to be perfect. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of my younger siblings. I did everything I could to earn her approval, to just make the hurting stop. Matt. After all of it, I still felt as though I had no value at all. That was the most dangerous part. It wasn't the pain. It wasn't even the fear. It was the crushing, suffocating feeling that my life no longer mattered to anyone, including myself. When you believe your existence is meaningless, you've reached a truly dark and desperate place. I remember one afternoon so clearly. I spent time with my little sister Dara and my little brother, Nana. I held them close, hugging them tighter than usual. Something in me felt different that day, distant, as if I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into a fog I couldn't explain. I didn't know what was on the other side, but I felt an overwhelming pull to step off. I told them goodbye. It was a simple word, but it was loaded with a finality they couldn't possibly understand. And when my little brother Nana, with his innocent eyes, asked where I was going, I said something no child should ever have to say. I told him I was going to meet my father. I was going to see him in the afterlife. Even now, all these years later, remembering that moment breaks my heart. Because I wasn't just hurting anymore. I had completely stopped being able to imagine a future. There was no tomorrow in my mind. There was only an end. But in that darkest place, in that moment of absolute despair, something happened. As I sat alone, completely overwhelmed by the pain, feeling the weight of my entire life crushing me, I began to pray. I don't know why, it was just an instinct. I prayed to my father, who I missed so terribly. I prayed to my grandfather, whose memory was a source of strength. And I even found it in me to pray for my mother, for the woman lost inside the monster she had become. And then, suddenly, what came back to me was not more despair. It wasn't silence. It was a sound. 2. It was the sound of my little brother and sister laughing from earlier that day. I could hear it so clearly in my mind, their pure, joyful, carefree laughter. That sound, That simple memory reached me like a lifeline thrown into a churning, dark ocean. It cut through all the noise, all the pain, all the self-hatred. That laughter reminded me that I was still needed, that I still had love to give, and that I was still loved by them. It too reminded me that if I left, if I went through with it, they would be left behind in that storm, all alone, without me. And in that one single, powerful moment, everything changed. I saw their faces in my mind, and I knew I couldn't leave them. I realized I could not leave them. Not Dara, not Nana. My older sister, Maya, had once been that person for me. She was my protector, my shield, my reason for holding on when things got bad. Now, I had to be that person for them. They needed me. My life wasn't just about my own pain. It was about their survival, too. That day, I chose life. I want to be clear, it wasn't because the pain magically disappeared. It wasn't because everything suddenly became easy or made sense. The abuse didn't stop that night. The struggle wasn't over. I chose to live because I found something that was stronger than my despair. And that something was love. It was my love for them. Bro. I understood then, with a clarity I'd never felt before, that I was not meant to die in that moment. I was meant to survive it. I was meant to live through it, to carry that pain, and one day, tell the truth about it. To give a voice to the silent suffering I had endured. That realization didn't fix my past, but it gave me a purpose for the future. Looking back now, I do not tell this part of my story to glorify pain or to seek pity. I tell it because I know what it means to feel completely and utterly hopeless. I know the feeling of being convinced that the world would be a better place without you. And I also know what it means for one small, fragile thread of love to find you in that darkness and pull you back. For me, that thread was my siblings. For someone else listening right now, it may be a child, a friend, a beloved pet, a dream you haven't fulfilled yet, a future you have not yet seen. But I learned that day that even at our absolute lowest point, when all light seems to have gone out, a reason to live can still find us. We just have to be willing to see it. If you have ever felt like your pain was too heavy to carry, if you've ever felt that kind of hopelessness, this story is for you. Please hear me when I say this. You are not weak for struggling. You are not a burden for feeling pain. And your life is worth so much more than your darkest moment. Your story is not over. If you or someone you know is struggling, please know that help is available. There are people who want to listen and support you. In the next episode, I'll share how I finally left Longvec and returned to Panam Pen by myself, a young girl searching for her sister Maya, for work, and for a second chance at life. If this story touched your heart, please stay with me. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because surviving that day was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one. Thank you for listening.